Welcome to the podcast, Beyond the Dirt, episode 2. I got Pete Johnson here tonight. He's the driver of Thunderstruck motorcycle powered tractor. And so Pete, how long have you been pulling?
Well, we figured it up the other day, and near as we could figure about 20 years off and on.
20 years?
Yeah.
And I got some stories about that later. We'll get into that because I got to ask you if you was there. How old? Somebody asked me how old the Thunderstruck tractor was.
The chassis itself is probably 18 years old. I actually pulled it for a lot of years, and my boy got hurt, so we got out of pulling. And then when we decided to get back in pulling, I found the tractor that I traded it to a guy for a pickup, and I found the tractor and got it back. Well, they'd done some cutting on the chassis, so I completely stripped it down, rebuilt it, and the main chassis is 18 years old.
I'm overwhelmed with the texts and questions that people send in, and I got to thinking about this, when on my podcast, whenever, I start doing stuff, I thought, how am I going to ask questions and stuff? And I put them questions out there on my Facebook page, and of course, I either text it to me or send it on personal messenger, and man, I am overwhelmed with the questions that you all send in. And I want to thank you for that, and just keep sending them in, because without the viewers' questions, this show would be pretty boring, unless we was telling stories, or whatever, but we'd make it through, but man, I appreciate your all's questions, and so I'm going to go ahead and just start some questions, because basically it's the same questions I was going to ask Pete tonight that the people sent in. And I was talking to Bernie, which Bernie was on our first podcast. I got a message here, and we think it came either from the Netherlands or Germany or somewhere. You sent your name here, but I can't pronounce it. It's Bastiaansen. So thanks for the shout out. It says, shout out from across the water. Does the U.S. have more money for the sport? It takes a lot of money for me to participate. How much does it take for you guys in the USA?
That's a good question. For us, personally, to me it seems like there's probably more places that we can go pull that's closer to home. And I've watched a little bit of their pulling on YouTube and stuff, but once you get the cost of the tractor bill, other than the price of fuel, it really don't seem too bad.
Well, we got our fuel getting there. We got our entry-free money.
Yeah.
And then we got a repair to tear something up. So I don't know. So we can go to a pool comfortably for the weekend pool for what? Maybe less than $100.
Yeah.
Something like that, and that's counting fuel to get there. Of course, we don't have to travel very far. Sometimes we do travel a lot. Another question here. Jamie Turner, thanks for sending this in. It says, Pete, what made you get into pulling? And also, why did you made you put a motorcycle tractor together?
Well, I got into pulling when my boy was about 9 or 10 years old. He had got into an accident with my aunt and was getting a settlement, and he wanted to get into some kind of motorsport, whether it's dirt bike racing or pulling or whatever. And we went to a lot of different things. He decided that he wanted to start pulling tractors. So his grandparents gave him a John Deere that we fixed up. He started out on it, and I done some trading around, and I actually started out on motorcycle tractors. I pulled a few other V8s and stock class tractors, but the motorcycles is what I've started out on, and I've just always stayed with them.
Okay, Jamie, Pete answered your question. Here's the next one. And I'm fascinated that, I'm still fascinated on my YouTube channel. I didn't really pay that much attention. I've been doing this YouTube now for, what have I been doing? This maybe 2-3 years now. I've been filming all the pools
At least,
and stuff like that. You know, I think things is kind of growing, but I'm really fascinated. We're gonna talk about that here in a minute, about things people watch and stuff. But this message was watching from Eastern Colorado. If I was to build a motorcycle tractor, what's my first steps?
well, your first steps would be to check with your local clubs and find out what the rules are. Stuff like wheelbase, width, CC of your engine. That'd be your first steps to start out. And then, you know, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, kind of decide what what size metal you want to make your frame and stuff out of. And when I first built my very first one that I built, I actually built it for my son. And we just kind of went at it blind. And
I know that, I think it's 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I first started coming around Florida, we had her sister and all her kids showed up at Chitopee. You remember that time?
Yeah.
All them kids was pulling. And my brother-in-law was, you know, they lived in Eastern Colorado. And he was, when we built the mini rod, 8 seconds, he was really into this.
Yeah.
And I know there's a club out there in Eastern Colorado. So you know, your question about the Eastern Colorado, you know, watching from Eastern Colorado. I know there is a club in Eastern Colorado, so you might, you know, check around it, but I can't tell you what it was. Surely you can find it on the internet or something, and you know, they'll have the rules and stuff that you can build to, so. Okay. Our question last week, we all had a kick out of this when we did episode 1, is, and I told you all that I was really fascinated, the people that watch my YouTube channel, the stuff they notice, you know. So here was the question, the guy that runs the sled sometimes, why does he wear a helmet? Is it mandatory, and why?
no, it's not mandatory. At times my allergies are kind of bad, so at some of the tracks it's pretty dusty, so I wear the helmet to help keep the dust down.
Okay, there's your question. We thought it was for safety, you know, in the rocks. Sometimes, you know, we're on a rocky track and the rocks start flying like bullets. Hey, we're going to take a short break a minute, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, we're back. Okay, our next question. Jim from Iowa. What kind of rear, hey, I tell you what, the rest of them are pretty good questions. Jim from Iowa. What kind of rear end do you use, and how is it geared?
In my personal tractor, Thunderstruck, I run a 2-inch solid bar stock that I had keyed and had the sprocket and the hubs bored out and keyed for. And then I just run a chain straight from the engine to the rear end. A lot of the newer tractors are running a jack shaft in between. At the time of building mine, I didn't know much about jack shafts, so we kind of stayed away from what we didn't know.
It's simple that way.
Yes.
I built a go-kart like that one time, you know.
Yep.
It worked fine, you know. So,
As far as gearing, I'll tell anybody, it's got a 10 tooth on the engine, it's got an 82 or 84 tooth on the rear axle.
All right, Samantha. I think Samantha, she must watch our YouTube channel a lot, because I think this is the same Samantha from last time. And we might know Samantha, but I can't think who Samantha is. This is awesome, and I love the podcast name. Do you have clips pulling of the guest that you could put it in the podcast to who you're interviewing? And I thought about that.
Yep.
Man, I'll tell you what, I have to go back and pull them off of them clips and everything. So we'll try that, Samantha, sometime. Hi, I'm a Minnesota puller. How in the heck, and we mentioned this one again, how the heck do you guys put up with the dust? Don't anyone have a water truck? Do you use a filtered helmet?
No, the helmet's not, it's not filtered like as far as having an air pump or anything. The dust is, you know, a lot of us been around it so much that yes, we do have water trucks but when it's 100 degrees outside, it's impossible to keep that dirt.
Hey, we've been in a drought.
Yeah.
You know, hey, we got 1 inch of rain, I think, in May. I think it's around May the 21st, and we didn't get no more rain until, oh man, Joplin, Missouri.
December,
Yeah, in Joplin, Missouri pulled. So we pulled all summer long without any rain.
Yeah.
You know, usually we get rained out a couple times, you know, and we were begging for water in places, you know, and
And like everything else, I'm sure the price of water is went up to get it.
yeah, well, look at the place, you know, we were scheduled to go in Missouri, down in Missouri.
Yeah.
And they had to cancel because the town run out of water.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, guys, hey, we made the best of it, you know, and we put up with the dust, you know, but when you're in the middle of the United States in this big drought, we just kept on blaming. So. Okay, howdy, I'm from Wisconsin. I really like what you have started. Are any big tractor pullers going to be on the podcast? Yes, there's going to be, so we're going to break it up a little bit. We got probably our next podcast, we got a big tractor puller coming, so he'll be on here next time. And we'll rotate out between garden tractor pullers and antique pullers, and we do have some bigger tractor pullers that's retired, and they are going to join us sometime. And we got a couple race car drivers going to join us. Somebody sent this in on their 417. I think it might be somebody we pull with. I don't know. The number was kind of familiar. It said, we want more of the big guy. And they're talking about Brian from episode 1. So Brian, if you're listening to this, we got to have you back. He said, you look like you have many more stories in you. And we love the story about the runaway tractor. You know, all the time I was hanging out with them guys, they never tell me that story.
Yeah.
And we sat down here and oh my gosh, it was coming out of the woodwork, you know, the stories. You even had the camera lady laughing. 316 number. I watched the videos. Well, we kind of answered this too. You don't run a jack shaft. Somebody wanted to know what kind of jack shaft you run. Can you talk about jack shaft?
Sure. My daughter actually pulls a small engine tractor, motorcycle tractor, and I didn't build it, I bought it just for simple time, but it is jack shaft, and all it is a small shaft that fits between the frame rails, about halfway between the engine and the rear end, and it gives you more selection on being able to change your sprockets as far as to change your gear ratios. They seem to work well. They take a lot of stress off of the chains. The only thing I've seen is you run 2 chains instead of one great big long one.
You know, something I've noticed too, and you know as well as, you know, I'm new at this. I've only been going at it, 3-4 more years. We've come from the horse world and went to tractors, but there's a couple of tractors out there that pulls with us. Don't they just run a cub rear end?
Some do. I'm not real sure. I haven't got into really how they got them hooked up.
Man, you know that's a lot of power coming off that. You know,
Yes, it is.
Wound up.
Now, I do know that in some other states, like some of the southern states, the motorcycle tractors have really blown up and took off. Kentucky, they have a big pull every year right at Thanksgiving that's nothing but motorcycles and V8 mini rods. Some of the guys I've talked to down there are turning the motors sideways and building a coupler with a drive shaft from the transmission of the motor to the rear end on you know, Cub or whatever they happen to use at the time.
I remember when I first started, we went to Fort Scott to pull, and I'd never been around some of them, you know, some of the tractors, and I think Roger had his, the tractor now that Coffee Bill guy's got.
Yeah.
Man, he took off, you know, and he busted his shear pin, you know, and that's where I tore it, you know, and I'm thinking, man, that little old, you know, because it's like a hay baler, it's set up on a hay baler, you know, and that little old 1/4 inch rope pin, you know, I mean, just sheared it, you know, so it's just amazing how much power a 1/4 inch shear pin can hold, you know, in that.
Well, before I went to a 2-inch axle on mine, I was running 1 1/4 solid bar stock axle, and I actually twisted 1 and 2.
Wow, wow. Yeah, it's amazing, you know, the horsepower that comes off of that, you know, I'll just throw this out there to your viewers, because you sent this in, somebody sent it in, 417 number I got, still waiting on antique pullers with a big smiley face. We're gonna have some antique pullers, and if you're an antique puller, just give me a call, you know, and we'll get you on here. So I'm after some of you, so don't be scared of the camera. Hey, it's nothing sitting here. You don't even know the camera's here, do you, Pete?
No, need to get a hold of Benny Brown.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get Benny on here, but, you know, I've talked to him. We're gonna get off sidetrack here, and then we'll take a break, but, it's like when we started this, you know, some of the guys said, oh man, I can't sit in front of a camera. But, you know, with this setting that we got, you don't even really know the camera's out there.
No.
You know?
No.
And that's what I wanted to make it comfortable, you know, for the guys that is camera shy. So, you know, give me a call, guys, you know, I mean, you want to be on here, everybody's got a story, you know, and we're going to keep it real on here, so just get a hold of them.
And ladies, if you're a lady puller, give him a call too.
Oh yeah, you know, I want everybody on here. I want to tell the story. You know, there's a lot of guys like the guy that owns this place, and we got the podcast studio here and everything. We were talking, and in the Midwest, I mean, here we go again. The Midwest pullers is the Midwest sled.
Yeah.
But the Midwest area here, you know, we got a lot of guys around here.
Yes.
That pull big tractors.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pulled nationally, you know, I mean, in the outlaws and
Yeah.
stuff, you know, and they've retired and gone on, and we're gonna try to get some of them in here, you know, but anyway, let's do one more, and we'll break for our little commercial break. Here's a question here. It says, do you run a CV contact velocity down?
Constant velocity.
Yeah, downdraft or a mechanical carburetor?
I run just what came factory on the bike. They're Mikuni carburetors. You know, anybody that's interested in them, I tell them, you know, I'll help them. But I run, they just came factory on my motorcycle motor. They're, and it's an 07 Yamaha 1000. Now, I have seen guys that build intakes. Years ago, when I first got into pulling, there were some guys that had motorcycle tractors that had gold wing motors. They built their own intakes and was running 4-barrel Hollies on them.
Wow. Wow. Okay, let's break for a commercial break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to Happy Jack's Foods, home of Beyond the Dirt Pulling Podcast. Come and see us, try out our good food. While you're here at Happy Jack's enjoying the food, come on inside and check out the automotive memorabilia we have, and along with my new oil tanker. Come on by and see us.
Here's another question I got, is my husband is wanting to know, and that's a good question. My husband is wanting to know the motorcycle classes, weight classes that y'all run.
We run a little motorcycle class, which I think is 750 and under cc.
Under 750
Yeah.
cc, yeah.
And their weight is 1,100 pounds, and the, I'll say it's 1,300 cc and under is 1,300 pounds.
Yep, 1,300 pounds. So, you wanna come pull with us, just send me a message and join our Facebook page, Midwest Pullers LLC. We'll start the season off probably around end of April, something like that. I think that's our first pull, probably could be in Columbus, Kansas, I imagine, so.
Probably have a play day somewhere in there, depending on the weather.
Here's a funny one. I mean, you always gotta have fun, you know, when we're doing this, but I actually got a text on this, and I think I know who it is. He said he asked Pete how many times in 2023 will he put a spanking on the orange tractor? LOL.
I don't keep count of stuff like that. Me and that orange tractor swap places back and forth quite a bit this year.
Back and forth.
Yes.
Used to be a little bit, I mean, more and more, you know.
Well, I spotted the issue, and if he's listening, I hope he looks his tractor over real good this winter. At Joplin, I spotted an issue that if he don't take care of, it's gonna be a big problem for him. And I don't want to see any competitors.
Have trouble.
Yeah.
Somebody else brought that up too, I can't remember what it was. So, yeah, if you're watching, we're all after you, buddy. So, this is a good one here, and it said, it's kind of a story here, and I get everything. I mean, you know, keep sending them in. I mean, that's what makes this interesting. Did you guys know a guy from north of Topeka, I guess I ought to say his name on YouTube, is Orville Calhoun? And do you know what he did at the Antique Tractor and Engine Show in Pittsburgh, Kansas each year? I didn't know what he did, so he sent the answer in. He put on a garden tractor pull with a sled that the guys would step on as he went by with a garden tractor. And Joe said he pulled on it.
I believe that.
He pulled on it. You know, Joe, he's older than her. And I didn't know, did you know Mike Napier?
Yeah. I met him a few times. He pulled with a club that used to be a little further north of us here.
So Mike Napier, he pulled a tractor called Running Bear. But Joe told me, man, it was something you'd never forget, you know. And I remember, you know, as a kid, you know, matter of fact, out here in the back, this back 40 out here, back before all these buildings was built, I remember coming here as a kid, and they used to have antique tractors. This used to be an international dealer right in here, and they built a track right out back here, and they had antique tractor pulls, and then, you know, kind of like this deal, you know, they hooked onto, all it was a big old sheet of steel, you know, curled up, and guys would sit on chairs or hay bales over so many feet, and you'd step on. But could you imagine stepping on a sled nowadays with the garden tractors?
No.
There's no way you could do it.
Your insurance company would have a
Oh
fee.
my goodness, yes, you know, I mean, oh man, you'd be slinging bodies all the way down on the deal. Supposed to ask Pete about his short wheelbase tractor he used to own. It was white. Did you have one?
Yeah, it was the very first motorcycle tractor I ever owned. It was stock lawnmower wheelbase.
Wow.
You could not keep the front end on the ground or make it go straight for love or money.
Did you build it? Or?
No, I
You bought it?
traded for it, yeah.
So,
It had a 750 Suzuki on it.
so, you know, people sent these questions in, you know, and they knew Pete, you know, there probably a lot of them pulled with you years ago, you know, so, we were telling stories. We kind of closed with some stories, you know, kind of a little comedy, and the story about Bernie's tires falling off and coming up. Was you there?
No, I wasn't. Well, I don't think I was. If I was, I don't remember it.
So, but can you imagine driving in there with one wheel and getting it in there with one front wheel? You did that. You did that one pull. You lost a wheel on yours or bent or something.
Well, I pulled this year over at Medoc with the left front tire completely flat. When I'm hooked to sled, my front wheels very seldom touch the ground anyway.
Yeah. I thought you'd lost the wheel at one time, but
No, I've been fortunate. I've never and probably at the speeds that the motorcycle tractors pull, I probably ought to put some kind of skid deal under them just for the fact that, you know, because if that thing digs in, it's probably going to launch you.
oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, anything can happen, you know. I mean, and you know, them stories like, you know, I told last week, of course, shouldn't have bring it up this time, but the time, you know, I was a newcomer and they put me flagging and that tractor blowed up, you
Yeah.
know, and that piston or whatever shot out there and I
Well,
started doing the moonwalk.
It's funny that you brought that story up. Teresa, my wife, that does our signings and stuff, we was at West Mineral when that happened.
Uh-huh.
It blew, besides blowing parts of you, it blew I think it was a starter under the table and landed right there at her feet.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
and her and I was talking about that when we was watching the last podcast and got to laughing about that.
You know, I mean, we talked about it too, you know, we have been fortunate, you know, with the accidents and stuff and, you know, and Bernie, you know, he'd bring it up here tonight if he was here, you know, I mean, we've let a lot of stuff go,
Yeah.
you know, and our insurance, which the world's changing, people, you know, I mean, look at what happened at the National Finals Rodeo this year, you know, just, it's always about drama, you know, and you're offending somebody or something, you know, so the world's changing, so, you know, we gotta play by the insurance rules, you know, we gotta do, you know, what they say, so, you know, we might not have to be good old boys, you know, we might have to say, okay, we gotta do this or that. But anyway, hey, you got any more stories? Surely you got one good one, didn't you?
Well, I remember one 4th of July over at Chanute. I hadn't been pulling with you guys real long, and I think Bernie was having someone else run the sled at the time, and he was getting his mini rod ready. And it was my turn to hook the sled. So I get up there and I hook the sled and I take off down through there, and anybody that's pulled any time can kind of feel when something's not right. Well, I felt that it didn't feel like the weight was moving. So I started backing off of it. Well, every time I did, the sled, the kid run the sled, I don't know exactly what was going on, but it would hit the back of the tractor. Well, anybody that's been over at Chatopa knows that at the end of the track is the Neosho River. And after it was all said and done, the speedometer showed we was up to 30 mile an hour by the end of the track. And I was trying to figure out what to do to keep the tractor and sled out of the water. Fortunately, there was a gravel road at the end of it. We was able to get turned on and get stopped. But that was kind of a scary moment.
That brings a story up to me. Remember the time me and you went over west that day and we got over there? The track was 1 block long.
Yep.
1 block long. And they told us before we hooked on, they said, this is it, guys, 1 block. You only got one. How far is a block? 100 and some foot? I think it was probably, well, it was a short block, you
Yeah.
know? And there was a rose bush. Remember the rose bush down at the end of the
Do not
track?
get in the rose bush.
Do not hit the rose bush.
And do not get in the neighbor's yard.
And do not hit the neighbor's yard. Because I think I was over there one other time, I think. I can't remember. I think I went over there one other time. And they were sitting on the porch. And so this next time when you went with me, I think, you know, they was going to run us off. But Pete, he liked the rose bush by about that, you know. Don't hit the rose bush.
Yep.
Pete got about that close to it. But yeah, we had some good times, you know. I talked to, we was talking about building a motorcycle track and everything. Talked to Kim Benning. I think Kim Benning's gonna come on our podcast. And I think that'd be pretty good, you know, because
Yep.
Kim, you know, I mean, he wasn't around pulling, you know, he just kind of jumped into things and
Yep.
started following us around. I think he found our Facebook page and
Yep.
said, hey, that looks fun, you know.
He come from the dirt track racing
Yeah,
world.
so he's gonna join us sometime on the podcast, and that'd be interesting hearing his story, you know, because You know,
And
he didn't copy off of nothing, he just started building, you
yeah,
know? So, I think he's building another one now.
I seen the other day where he bought a four-cylinder,
Yeah.
a car four-cylinder tractor. So, but if anybody out there's got any questions or wants to build a motorcycle tractor or anything, look me up on Facebook. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. I'd love to see the motorcycle classes grow. I think one time you even kicked around the idea.
Yeah, I still kick it around a little bit. My daughter, you know, she wants to continue pulling, you know, and it's either gonna be in, you know, some mini rod or a V8 or something, you know. We're gonna build her one this winter, but I don't think everything, time you get ready to, you know, the phone rings, do something else, so.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard, time goes so fast anymore, so. Can't think of really anything to talk about. I think we're pretty well covered. Go get your daughter on sometime. Your, Hannah, she pulls a motorcycle tractor. So we'll get her on here sometime. And Bill McMillan, he's going to come on, talk about his motorcycle tractor. Speaking of them guys went to drove their tractors in the Prairie Grove.
I seen that.
You know.
Jeremy Bible and
Curtis Allen.
Curtis Allen. Yep.
Yeah, they called me up and they said that they were going to do this, and they wanted to know if they could put Midwest pullers on their permission, you know. And I said, well, yeah, you know, it's fine, you know. But we got to think about driving a tractor. Well, they run a radiator, you know, so it'll get hot. But oh, Jeremy Bauer, you look good in that. If you're watching this, Jeremy, you look good with that Santa Claus hat on and lights. So you look. We're proud of representing Midwest Pullers. And by the way, she called me last night, said she was going to post some pictures, and they want to have a pool down there, and they're going to go back. And she told me they'd get a hold of me, but they're going to do it. I guess the city guy come up there and was really interested. I guess they park in the parking lot or something and judge, you know, before the parade. And he was really interested. The city was really interested in that. So
Good.
they said that they wanted to come. I mean, wanted us to come to a pool, but you know, I don't know when that'll happen. We'll have to get some dates and a place to do it. But she said something about maybe an indoor deal. That'd be nice in the wintertime.
Yes,
that'd be
it
a
would.
perfect spot in the wintertime. Well, Pete, I have things to talk about. So, you want to talk about anything else we're missing?
Not that I can think of.
We'll have you back sometime.
All right.
We'll get.
If you're out there watching, keep an eye on the Facebook page and everything for schedules. And
Yep. We'll get it all posted, and
if you're close, we'd love to have you come visit us at a pool or something.
you know that's kind of how this got started. You know that.
Yep.
Remember the guy walked up to me? We was a cynic.
Yep.
He said, I watched every video you ever posted. He said, you need to start something. And I said, what? He said, I want to know more about these guys. So that's why I started this.
Yeah. And you know, there's at polls, you've had just as much as anybody, any of the rest of us, people come up and just talking to you, you know,
Oh,
want
yeah.
to know how you got started or you know.
You know, we were going to close, but that brings up another conversation. You know, we were talking about this not too long ago. I know I don't put a lot out there because I kind of hold a lot in, you know. My job I had for 27 years, you know, and the people I was around with, you know, I just kind of have learned to live with it, you know, and that's just my personality. Probably some people think I'm rude, you know, but I take care of the PR stuff.
Yeah.
And you've been standing there when this has happened. Somebody come up and, you know, just start chewing on you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just start chewing on you, you know. And what do? I don't say nothing. I just smile from it.
Yeah.
So, and you gotta, people get so mad sometimes, but it's a rough job. Somebody's got to do it.
Yes, it is.
You know, so. But anyway, I think we're going to get out of here, and we've been on here probably a little bit, so we're going to have Albert Potosnik on our next one probably. He's a big tractor puller, so look forward to that, and I'll be posting it on Tractor Pulling with GZ and let you know the schedule on that. You can go ahead if you want to, just send some questions in to my text at 620-762-2848, or you can message me on Facebook. And so if you got any questions for Albert Potosnik, start sending them in. Instead of waiting until the last minute, we'll just go ahead and start filtering them in. So we'll catch you next time on Beyond the Dirt. Keep it between the lines, and thanks for watching.